So first thing I want to do is introduce myself and just explain why I'm talking to you. So my name is Mark Story. I'm currently the head of learning, innovation and quality at Future U. But prior to that, I was head of learning and development at New Cross Healthcare, looking after about 19,000 care professionals, support workers, nurses, healthcare assistants. And prior to that, I was head of organizational development at the Met Office, the weather people. So all my career, I've been around learning and development, and a particular focus on ensuring that learning and development improves the performance of organizations. And a couple of years ago, we were lucky enough to win a learning award for the best onboarding program of the year. And last year we were shortlisted for 3 projects for excellence in learning design. So I believe, having delivered on our platform over 1 million courses and tens of thousands of face-to-face courses over the course of my career, that I'm in some kind of position to make comment on the state of learning and development, and particularly the state of learning and development in social care at the moment. So I'm going to share with you 5 trends that I think are important to be aware of as we move further into 2025. And I should imagine that you will know some of these, if not all of these. You're probably doing some of them. And as we talk about some of them, it may just prompt you into further action or to think differently about them. And the objective is to support you and your organization to perform better through the effective development of your people. And of course, we can't have a session on trends in learning and development without talking about AI. But I assure you, AI is not one of the trends, but I am going to show you how AI can be used in a practical sense to do some of the heavy lifting for you in your learning and development role. So let's make a start and let's think about what I'm going to cover. So the 5 things that I'm going to cover are, first of all, address the elephant in the room, that everybody hates e-learning. So we're going to talk about e-learning and its place in learning and development. We're going to think about when good becomes great, and particularly that's about soft skills, about leadership skills, about things that will really turn the dial on performance. But that's why I'm going to talk about how AI can really help you create some actionable learning objectives or tasks that you can integrate into your supervision, appraisal system, job descriptions, whatever it might be, to really ensure that you're defining what great looks like in your organization. Third thing I want to talk about is Zen and the art of care. So that's largely about well-being and the importance of a focus on well-being for staff. And then the 4th one sounds a bit weird, putting butter in tea. So I'll explain what that means when we come to it, but that's about the importance of cultural competence and cultural awareness. And then finally, Bill Gates' I am not is just recognizing the importance of digital skills, the growing importance of digital skills in social care, and what we might do as managers, leaders, learning and development professionals to ensure that our often not very tech fluent workforce is getting to grips with a growing requirement for technology in care. So with all of that, and there will be some audience participation moments, I will make a start. So the first thing is everybody hates e-learning. Now, I work for an online learning organization, and that's a really difficult thing for us to say. And of course, we would want to say that our learning is different. There's lots of really great examples of e-learning out there, online learning, and e-learning certainly has its place. But what I'm trying to convey here is that e-learning is not the one solution to all of your staff development needs. There is a whole range of development activities that need to be brought together to really ensure that people are learning appropriately the skills, knowledge, behaviors that you want them to learn. So what I've prepared here is a list of different types of learning. I'm sure that you're, of course, familiar with these, and just mention a little bit about the benefits of each and the drawbacks of each. And I just want to go through those quickly and then give you some examples of how you might blend and use different types of learning methodologies to ensure that people are learning appropriately for different types of learning. So, e-learning, what is it good at? What I found is that when I used to go around and watch my trainers deliver clinical training, that we might have a whole day session or a half day session on a particular topic, and they would spend the first, I don't know, 2/3 of that session walking through a PowerPoint presentation, and they would be repeating that day in, day out, day in, day out to the learners that they were presenting to. And the argument was always, well, there could be real good discussion there. In practice, there was very little discussion in those sections. It was when you moved on to the practical aspects of that training that there were loads of questions that came up. So e-learning can take all of that out of the in-person training time, and it can ensure that people have got a real consistent grasp of the theory that you're trying to teach. It also enables you to really work at scale. So if you've got 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 100 people, 50 people, you can ensure that everybody's learning the same thing, and you can do that relatively cost effectively. What it can't do is assess people's practical skills. It can't really promote discussion, and it can be an isolating experience. So use it wisely and use it to really ensure that everybody's got that fundamental, consistent grounding in theory. You can add to that by putting on practical sessions, in-person sessions, and they're really great. Everybody seems to enjoy them. That it can lead to discussion if it's facilitated well. It can, of course, give people the opportunity to practice practical skills. It can be a social activity, so people sitting with each other and over coffee break and so on, they can build relationships. So there's a whole range of really tangible benefits for in-person training, but it is expensive. If you're an organization that is spread over geographical regions, it can be difficult to get people together. It can be difficult to schedule. It depends on the effectiveness of the trainer. And if you see two trainers delivering a training program, you will notice that they deliver them very differently. So there is an inconsistency that's built into the in-person training. On the job, so making sure that people have the opportunity to be supervised appropriately and learn while they're on the job is a really good addition to practical training. And it can be a really useful way of giving people the experience of applying practical skills in very different situations. But again, it can be time consuming, it can be inconsistent, it can depend on the quality of the supervisor or the quality of the expert or the quality of the colleague that is supporting an individual. Self-directed learning, so asking people to go and find out about things or update themselves about things. It can be a really useful thing for some aspects of learning. So if you want to learn about, it may be liberty protection safeguards, or it might be about the use of AI, then some people can be very self-motivated to go and research those things. But it does require a level of self-motivation, And there is no guarantee of what people research being accurate or being relevant. So it's a bit of a shot in the dark, really. Peer learning, so getting either groups together or pairs together, is a really great way of pooling experience. It's a cost-effective way of getting people to learn about things, and it can standardize practice, but it might standardize the wrong practice if it's not supervised appropriately. It depends on the accuracy of people's knowledge. It can lack structure, it can move off topic, or it can lose focus. And then reflective learning, so getting people to reflect on their learning. And we believe at Future You there are 3 pillars to effective development. And the first one is about self-awareness. And self-awareness is really about being able to reflect on what you're good at and what you're not good at, how you apply certain skills, what kind of contexts you find that difficult to apply those skills in. And a really good manager can bring that out in supervision. So it requires a bit of time, a bit of discipline to really go through that. And I'll talk a bit about how we might do that a bit later on. So these are the kind of ranges of methods that you've got for staff development. And let's move on to a practical example of how you might blend these together to ensure an appropriate learning pathway for, let's take moving and handling as an example. So moving and handling, you could do some e-learning to understand the theory and the knowledge. So theory about the spine, theory about the legislation, or knowledge about the legislation, knowledge about the importance of risk assessment and the structure of risk assessment, for example. But then you might have some in-person training to really get to grips with the practical requirements of moving and handling. Now, a lot of organizations will often stop there. There might be, in some organizations, an on-the-job competency assessment, but there might also be on-the-job learning. So there might be a range of different types of equipment that you haven't got time to cover in detail in in-person training. And you might have a checklist, and when the situation arises, get somebody who can observe, and after they've observed, they can support, and after they have supported, they might be able to lead with supervision and be signed off as competent in the actual situation. Peer learning might be good, so buddying up less experienced staff with more experienced staff to make sure that those less experienced staff are learning from the experts, and also picking it up on supervision. So what are people good at? What are people less familiar with or less confident with? Is a really great way of getting people to understand what they need to be finding, what kind of situations they need to be finding on the job or through their peer learning. So moving and handling is a great example of where you might blend, and we describe this as hybrid learning, a whole range of different methods to ensure that it's really effective. And in there's going to be things that really turn the dial. So don't focus all your attention on the e-learning, because it may be that the actual hands-on practice is the thing that really makes the difference between somebody who's good at this and somebody who's great at this. So find the method that really turns the dial. Another example, and we'll come on to talk about this in a bit, is cultural competence. So you might have, again, a range of different ways in which you develop people. So e-learning is a great way to give everybody a grounding in the key issues. But something like this, a kind of a softer skill, will lend itself really well to peer learning. So some kind of facilitated discussion, bring people's experience in, pool that knowledge and pool that experience. And again, that'll be a really useful topic area to cover in supervision as a reflective piece. So just think about how aware are people of different cultures, and how are they feeling about being able to navigate all the different cultures that exist in the care sector. So first trend is about hybrid learning, but it's about using all the methods available to you to ensure that whatever is being taught appropriately and assessed appropriately, but also on an ongoing kind of continuous development point that continues to be effective too. So we're going to come on to the next section, the next trend, and I've titled this "When Good Becomes Great," and there's two things that I want to bring in here. So one is the importance of soft skills and leadership skills. So that is a really key area, I think, for the learning and development professional at the moment. And understanding what behaviours turn a good carer into a great carer is a really useful exercise to undertake. So useful, in fact, that I think that we should do that now. So what I'd like you to think about, and we'll come on to managers in a bit, is think about who your best carers are and think about what qualities make up that carer. So I don't know if anybody wants to come off mute and just give an example of somebody that springs to mind when they think of a good carer or a great carer. This is a check to make sure that people are still listening as well.
I'm listening.
That's very kind of you, Sue. So Sue, when you think of a great carer, give me an example of a quality that you can think of that describes them.
So I think one of the biggest qualities would be effective communication. So somebody who's a good listener, somebody who is chatty, you know, can read a care plan, follow a care plan, listen to a person. Yeah, so communication.
Okay, lovely. That's a great example. And I'm going to now bring in ChatGPT. So we have had an example there. And let's see if I can just get rid of that. There we go. Okay, so Sue, the example you gave is I know a great carer. What makes them great is that they're chatty, great at communication. You also mentioned reading care plans, listening to people, and the point here is that when we talk about what great looks like, we talk about things like great communication, great at reading care plans, great at listening to people, and so on. Now, if we describe that in a job description, or we want to talk to somebody about how they can be better at those things, then we need to break that down into actionable, learnable tasks. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to do this. And this is an example of how you might use AI just to do some of the heavy lifting for you. So please give me a list of learnable skills that I can use to develop these qualities in others. So let's see what it comes up with. So here we go. Now, from our description of they're great at communication, reading care plans, listening to people, we now have quite an in-depth list of communication and social skills. So techniques like paraphrasing, summarizing, asking clarifying questions. Suddenly we've got something that we can work with, and we can talk to people about what's your level of understanding of body language awareness, for example, Or how good are you at paraphrasing and summarizing what people say to demonstrate that you're effective at active listening? There may be a whole bunch of other things, patience and resilience. So managing stress and staying positive and giving that tone of communication that makes people feel reassured and that everything's going to be okay. So we've got a list here, and ChatGPT has said, would you like suggestions on specific training materials or exercises for any of these? So let's go, yes, please. So here we go. We've got a whole list of either resources or exercises that we can undertake, maybe in a team meeting, to help develop those communication skills in other people. So there's some really great things here, and that's taken, I don't know, 10 seconds for this. It's asking me if I'd like a structured training plan for this. And I'll say, no, please give me a set of reflective questions for managers to ask in supervisions about effective communication. So there we go. Now we've got a list of really effective questions that we can give our managers to try and improve this area just through asking people to reflect within supervision. So what I'm trying to demonstrate there is two things. First of all, when we think about what a great carer looks like, it's often behavioral. It's often about the way that they communicate, the tone that they communicate with, the kind of positivity, the chattiness, whatever it might be. We can use something like ChatGPT or other tools are available to really drill down and structure what that means in a way that will allow us to talk to other people about skills that they need to develop to improve that area. And we can use AI to structure questions for supervision, structure a training plan, or even give us, and I'll put here, please, always say please, just in case, please write a 1 hour training program to develop these skills. There we go. So now I've got a 1 hour team meeting session that I can follow and I can deliver to my team to improve active listening, empathy, having difficult conversations, and all of that can be done within an hour. Let's get back to, I'll stop presenting. Apologies. So let's come up again now. So when we think about who our best carers are, we describe their qualities in broad terms. We can use AI to drill down. We can get a really effective list of actionable tasks, skills, things that people actually do that turn good to great. And we can do exactly the same with managers. When we think about who our great managers are, they're probably people who are positive. They can have difficult conversations. They command respect. They're concerned about people. We can bash all of those things into AI, and we can create a really good manager's checklist to understand whether our managers are doing those things or not doing those things. We can build those into job descriptions. We can use those to structure interview questions to make sure we're getting the right people. As I've shown, we can use them as reflective statements or questions in supervisions. We can use them to create really clear development objectives, things that you want people to do. We can use them to create career development discussions if we're thinking about leadership or management. And if we have peer learning or a mentorship program, then we can use that and give that to the peers or the mentors as a structure to make sure that they're really focusing on the right things. Okay, we're going to move on to the next. And just before I move on from there, so things that you might like to do as a result: review your appraisal process, ensure that some of these things are represented in there. I think Alex will probably put a link to the Care Leaders Bootcamp. So that's a series of recorded webinars, a whole bunch of really great resources, and it covers things like career development conversations, about behavioral skills and interviewing and so on. So some really great resources for you at your disposal. Okay, let's think about Zen and the art of care now. So well-being seems to be everywhere. Everyone's talking about wellness, mental wellness, and again, if you join the Care Leaders Bootcamp, you'll see there's a whole section on this. What I want to talk about here is just how it needs to be part of the learning and development professionals area of thought, is the wellness of staff. I think learning and development professionals are in a perfect position to be supporting this, and it has real impact on the performance of organizations. So we're suggesting that it has a real impact on quality of care. I mean, we don't need to be doctors or psychiatrists to understand that people who are giving care, they really need to be in a good mental, spiritual, social state in order to give their best to other people. And carers are a unique breed in that they will take on the world and often spend all of their energy and effort on the people that they care for, and the last person that they'll be thinking about caring for is themselves. And that's where I think we can come in as learning and development professionals. The impact, the specific impact that this can have around turnover and retention, absence and sickness, are real financial, monetary impacts. But things like morale, which then bleed into the quality of care, it turns into an organization that people want to join. If you're inviting people into an interview and they go and have a look around the place, people are often more aware of how it feels in a place at those kind of moments. So it can really help with bringing people in and bringing the right people in if you've got that really positive morale in your organization. There are lots of things that we can do here, and one of the things that I just want to share with you, which is a future you example. Let's go on to here. So in future you, we've got a bunch of wellness resources, and I just want to share the risk of burnout self-assessment with you. So you might want to just play with this yourself and see how it works. But this is something that you could send out to staff or ask staff to do, and then pick it up in a supervision or a team meeting to see
your risk of burnout,
how people did, and what they thought of the results, and the tips for improving their mental wellness as a result. So yeah, there's a voiceover to this, and I'll let the voiceover explain what this is about.
Assess your risk of burnout. Workplace stress can build up over time, affecting your well-being, job satisfaction, and overall quality of life. This interactive assessment is designed to help you reflect on key factors that contribute to burnout and identify areas where you may need to take action. How it works: you will answer 15 statements about your work experience and well-being. Rate each statement on a scale from 1, strongly disagree, to 5, strongly agree. At the end of the assessment, your score will indicate your level of burnout risk. What you'll gain: a personalized assessment of your current burnout risk level. practical recommendations to help you manage stress and improve well-being. Insights into steps you can take to maintain a healthy work-life balance. This assessment is a tool for self-reflection, not a diagnosis. If you are experiencing significant stress or burnout, consider seeking professional support.
There we go. So it takes about 5 minutes to do, and there's some really comprehensive feedback at the end of it. But it will be a really useful precursor. You remember when we were talking about hybrid learning, a real useful precursor to a supervision or a team meeting about how you might reduce the risk of burnout within the organization or the service that people are working in. So back to our slides. So I think learning and development is the key function to drive well-being strategies. And there's some real useful resources out in the world. I'm proposing that Future You can add to those resources, and it can really help with not just the quality of care, but also some real hard measures around sickness absence and turnover and retention. And there's a whole section on this in the Care Leaders Bootcamp. So I'd encourage you to have a look at that, where we take a deeper dive into those things. And our key message in the Care Leaders Bootcamp is that it doesn't have to be expensive. There can be a range of simple initiatives that can make all of the difference here. Okay, so we're motoring now, and we're on to the fourth trend. And this is a kind of apocryphal tale, I guess, that the owner of our organization shared with me about a care worker who had come over from northeast India, so just on the Nepalese border. And in her first sort of few days on the job, she was asked to make a service user a cup of tea, and she put butter in the tea, which was really strange for the service user, really normal for the carer, and it just highlighted a real difference in kind of cultural awareness between two different cultures. And I don't think we've ever had a more diverse workforce, and that's our care workforce. So we've got people that probably stretch across all the continents of the world, but increasingly we're seeing a higher level of cultural diversity within our service user population. So we've got a whole range of different cultures that need to be navigated. Now, often what organizations will do is have an equality, inclusion, diversity kind of training, initial training. It may be a compliance thing, and it may cover a whole range of really useful things. But I think there is a growing move to support care workers to navigate cultural diversity, to bring about really successful care. And it goes beyond the equality and inclusion and diversity initiatives. And I think that it's, again, the L&D professionals' position that puts them in the best place to support something like this. So what might we do? How might we approach this? I think the first thing, and this will be different to all organizations, is describe what cultural competence looks like to you. Now, I showed you just now how we might use ChatGPT to break down what a great carer looks like or what a great manager looks like. I think we can do the same for cultural competence. So you might ask the question, I've got somebody in my workforce, or I've got a population in my workforce from this area, or they represent this culture or this this background, and I've got these other people, these are our service users. What does cultural competence look like for our organization? So I think defining what it looks like, what it is and what it isn't, is really important. Recognizing our own cultural biases. Now, this is quite a challenging area. So we all like to think that we're very liberal and we're very accommodating and supportive and so on. Again, in the interest of self-awareness being the key to self-development, there are some really useful tools out there that will help challenge the extent to which we believe we have or haven't got cultural biases. And I want to show you one of those now, and we've got a link to this on the next slide. But here is something, you may have come across this before. Where are we? Select a test. There it is. So this is something that was developed by Harvard University, and it's about implicit biases that we have. So this is a free website that you can go on, and you can take tests that will assess your implicit biases against a whole range of different things. Now, of course, this is an American website, but you can have a look at race, for example, or age. You can have a look at gender, religion, disability, weapons. That shows that it's an American thing. Skin tone and so on, transgender issues. And what it will take you through is a process that reveals to you examples of where you may have implicit biases. And they may be so implicit, so inside us that we're just not aware of them. And it's a great starting point just to bring people out of their kind of coziness of like, yeah, I know all that, I've got all that. I don't need any support in this area. It can be a really useful precursor to that. So getting people to understand what their implicit or cultural biases are and how they might affect their behavior. And then it's about how do we build our cultural knowledge? How do we build our cultural sensitivity within our organization? And again, you might have practices already in place that help do that. It may be that we can turn to AI to produce some ideas or training plans to help us do that too. So some of the things that I think would be useful in this area is to provide training, and this might be team meetings, this might be specific workshops, it might be things that you release on a learning management system, so recorded podcasts or webinars that you can offer people. Establishing a feedback and measurement method, so understanding what cultural competence means to you might be a way into determining what measures might you put in place to understand whether it's improving or not improving. A really lovely thing is plotting cultural celebrations. I'm sure that's something that most people do now anyway, just to help demystify some of these different cultural celebrations from different cultures. And Alex has put the link to the Harvard's Unconscious Bias Project. So have a look at that. And just be warned, it can be really challenging. It can be really challenging. You think you're a nice person, and it turns out that actually you've got all of these implicit biases. The truth is, we all have. So it's really useful to reveal those. Okay, we're on to our last trend for 2025. And this is Bill Gates' I Am Not. This is about digital skills in the workplace. Now, I said that I was going to mention AI, but AI wasn't a theme that I was going to talk about specifically. I have shown you how AI might be used just to support the development of job descriptions or interview questions or appraisal questions or a training program on communication. But there is so much more technology that is coming into social care. And care professionals tend not to be the most tech fluent. They're not software engineers usually. They are people that have gone into that profession because they want to care for people and they're interested in people and not necessarily systems. But there are huge gains that we can have by developing digital skills and implementing digital solutions in the workplace, whether that's care management systems, whether that's medication administration systems, whether that is staff information systems, so allowing people to book holidays or whatever it might be, whether it's just making sure that people are safe and appropriately using things like email or WhatsApp messages and so on. I probably don't know a single care organization where the care staff haven't got some kind of WhatsApp group. And it's important that they know what the boundaries are and how to use that safely and so on. But also thinking about some of the learners that we support, making sure that people's passwords are not written down and kept on a post-it note by their computer, or making sure that people can rotate their devices appropriately in order to access systems or training or whatever it might be. We're saying here that inaction is not an option. Technology is here. A lot of care organizations particularly are still working on spreadsheets and paper-based systems for collating evidence of things, or making sure that care plans are written down and updated and so on. But it's not going to be long before even CQC are looking for different ways and more effective ways of managing the care process. So the point that I want to make here isn't about the specific digital skills that you need. It's about how to support your staff and bring about change when you're moving from analog systems to digital systems. And the model that I want to present to you is something called ADKAR, which I think is a really intuitive, useful model, but it's also something that we've used internally to good effect. And it's fairly simple in its application. So what ADKAR asks us to do is think about five different parts of the change process. So if we're introducing a new digital medication administration system, for example, then what we'd do is go through and score some of these areas. So awareness is the first thing. So to what extent are employees aware that there is a need for change and how that change might benefit them? So are they feeling that there are mistakes being made with the current system? Are they feeling that it's slow? What is it that that they're aware of in the present system, and how might you then communicate the benefits and what is likely to be their experience of the future? D is about desire. So there's no point in moving on from desire if desire is low. If nobody wants to change or participate in the change, it's going to be really hard to implement that change. So building that desire, and that might be giving people the opportunity to play with the system. It might be just to take some of the fear out of it. It might be talking about all the time saved and what they might be able to do as a result. There could be a whole range of ways in which you might build desire in people to adopt a new technology. K is for knowledge. This is where the learning comes in. So what is it that that people need to know about the change? How do they log on, for example? How do they, what knowledge have they got about how the system is going to work? And then that links into ability. So allowing them to develop the skills required to work that new system or platform or whatever it might be appropriately. And then reinforcement at the end. is just making sure that people don't have the option of going backwards from that change and reverting to paper-based systems, that there is some way in which you can turn off the previous way of doing things and really anchor that change in the organization. So that might be, and we see it quite a bit, making sure that a previous system is switched off at a certain point, which really forces people into working with a new system. So recognizing that there is a low level of technical fluency within care professionals generally, that's a generalization. Recognizing that there is an increasing demand for digital solutions within care leads us to this trend, which is about making sure that digital skills in the workplace are appropriately implemented. And insert your change model of choice there, but I'm proposing you to explore the ADKAR model as a way of doing that. So, with 10 minutes left, we come to the summary. I've taken you through 5 aspects of learning and development, which I think are important considerations, things that if you're not doing already, then it may be worth turning your attention to. And if you are doing them, it's worth reflecting on how well are you doing them, and is there anything else that you can do to improve that area. And they have been about putting e-learning in its place and making sure that whatever you're learning has got an appropriate blend of the appropriate learning methodologies. That when we talk about what great looks like, we can be much more specific, and we can use that that specific list to great effect in job descriptions or appraisals or supervisions or in training programs or in peer learning and mentoring programs, whatever it might be. Providing a practical definition of those things will go a long way to helping people achieve them, but also helping us define what it looks like for us in our organization. Zen and the art of care, making sure that caregivers are also focused on their own care, and how the learning and development professional is in pole position to provide that, and making sure that we're defining what cultural competence and awareness looks like for our unique organization, and that we're taking steps to develop that competence within our organizations and ensure that we're navigating this increasingly diverse workforce and service user population appropriately. And finally, Bill Gates, I am not, recognizing that with generally not optimal skills in IT in the care sector, and an increasing need for digital solutions requires us to bring about some change, and I'm proposing a model for that. There we are. Sue has gone. Sue's left us right at the last minute, and it brings me on to the final point, which is, are there any questions?